So I was 7 years old, and they made me do up downs. I said, this is not for me, and went the route of soccer.
Hey y'all, welcome back. Crazy to see you here again. I hope you had a good week last week. I hope you have a good week this week. Oh my goodness, holy but totally guacamole. We have a guest. We have Darien Harris here, who works for Michigan State, and he played for Michigan State, was one of the first people to ever play in the CFP. He's coming here. We're talking about football. We're talking about what he's doing now, all the things. But before we get into that, I was going to have a nice short little intro, little kiki here, little kiki there. We were going to move on. I was going to talk about how LaMelo should be an all-star, but now he is an all-star, and we were going to move on. Little did I know that the Sacramento Kings were literally going to manage to combust and do literally the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life be done by trading away the only good thing. Well, I'm not going to say the only good thing they had. One of the few good things they had away to Indiana and get something that was basically worth the same value, maybe arguably a little bit less, since he is older and Josh. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I truly don't understand why, as this happened 2 days ago for you, but Tyrese Houghton, y'all know I can't say names. He was traded away to Indiana, and the Sacramento Kings now have Sabonis, as well as Josh Holiday, and somebody else with Halliburton. But I just don't, you traded away one thing for the exact same thing. Like, trades are supposed to be getting something. Like, you're supposed to be getting anything but what you already have. And at least Tyrese was there, and, he had a vibe with Darien Harris. He had a vibe with, Davion Mitchell. And don't get me wrong, I am ecstatic to see Davion Mitchell get more playing time, because that wasn't going to happen with Darien Harris and Tyrese already on the team. But this trade just doesn't make sense to me. And again, I'm not saying that, Sabonis and Tyrese are the best players or that they're awful. They're two very good basketball players. But when you're trading, you're supposed to be getting something that can help your team move forward and be better. That's what I was thinking this entire time. I was just sitting, looking at my phone like, how in the world has this managed to happen? But then I remembered that it's the Sacramento Kings. They are incapable of doing anything, Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. But then again, they're Sacramento Kings. They've never been that great at doing anything. It's a very sad franchise. Literally, it is the booty crack of the NBA, if we're going to be honest. It's the thing most people forget about. I could run. Let me own the team. Again, I can't afford it. But, if a few of y'all want to hit me up on Instagram and we can, go into this thing together. Because, obviously, we can't do worse than what's already being done over there in Sacramento. The other trade that occurred today was that CJ Mccullen decided he wanted to run away from the grind. And I don't blame him. If you don't understand the whole grind thing, Damian Lillard has been very famous for saying, I'm staying in Portland because I'm here for the grind, and I won't just tap out and go to another super team or just basically go anywhere else where I could possibly win by any chance. He wants to, stick it out. And that is commendable for 5 years. But it's been 10, 12 now? Come on now. And CJ decided he was over it, and now he's going to New Orleans. Now, is New Orleans, the perfect franchise ever? No, you have Zion, who's just straight up not playing basketball anymore, basically. But you have Brandon Ingram, who's really good. Josh Hart is going to be a part of that trade, so now he's going to be in Portland. And it's going to be something to see. I am sad to see that, CJ and Damian aren't playing on the same team anymore, because that was a chef kiss version of a backcourt, especially in the NBA. They just never had enough to actually make that step in the right direction that they wanted to. I couldn't go about the rest of this episode and the rest of this week without giving y'all my feels about what in the world is happening in the NBA trade. And by the time you see this, I'm pretty sure 5 other things will have happened. So make sure you come back next week because we're going to talk about that and the Super Bowl and so much more. But I'm going to stop blabbing about the outrageousness that is the National Basketball Association and get into our conversation with Darien Harris. Let's go. On this week's episode, we have a special guest. I'm pretty sure this is our very first football administration former player. We're getting up there, you guys. But thanks so much, Darien, for being here with us this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here.
Well, for y'all that don't know, Darien is right now the director of player engagement for Michigan State. And also he played for Michigan State from 2011 to 2015. That's kind of wild because that feels like it was 19 lifetimes ago. But in reality, it was not that long ago.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like that for me, especially working with this new generation of players. And, the team now doesn't have anybody I played with, obviously. So that really makes me feel old. But I kind of got to remind myself that it wasn't that long ago that I was suiting up, but it does definitely feel like a long time ago.
Yeah, they were not doing TikToks and all that when you were.
No. I mean, Twitter was just becoming pretty prevalent. When I first got to MSU, let alone, Instagram didn't exist yet. Snapchat didn't exist yet. Both of those kind of came along the next couple of years. And yeah, now social media runs the world. So here we are.
Yeah. And to talk about your time there, you were not a starter when you got there. You had to really work your way up. And how is that deciding to go to school and I'm assuming you knew you probably weren't going to start. How is that mindset and going through that?
Well, I was fortunate to have, 2 parents that really instilled the value of patience and perseverance in me. And specifically my dad, having played college football at a high level, he played at Virginia Tech. He basically told me, you're probably not playing your first few years. So I don't want to hear you calling, home or complaining about that. You control what you can control, which is your leadership capabilities and being the most in shape, most well-conditioned player on the team, you'll get your opportunity. And that's, what happened for me, and was able to kind of work my way up, like you said, from redshirting to just playing special teams, to being a role player, to being a starter, to being a captain and all conference player. So I was actually, looking back, really glad to have gone through the process of really having to work my way up from, getting in and not being ready to play to kind of leaving as an all-conference performer.
Yeah, that's the story they make all the 30 for 30 movies about. That's the stuff the kids dream of when, they're like, I know I'm probably not going to make the team, but you never know. I'm going to just try out. We're just going to see what happens. But you mentioned something that I feel like you hear so much in college sports nowadays, especially is the red shirting. Can you tell people who might don't know what it is and maybe how your experience was and how it worked?
Yeah, and it's even different now than when I was coming up. Essentially, redshirting is you don't perform in a game setting during whichever year you're designated a redshirt. So generally speaking, I'd say probably 90% of the time it's in your freshman year, your first year on campus. So you're obviously still on the team. If you came in as a scholarship player, you're still on scholarship. You're still, eating with the team, working out with the team, depending on the coach and his or her parameters. You're still traveling, maybe suiting up for a game, but you're not actually stepping into the actual competition. And that gives you an extra year of eligibility. It allows for you to develop more until you're ready to play. Now in football, you can actually play 4 games and still redshirt and still retain a year of eligibility. So it actually gives you an opportunity to get some game experience and then be able to redshirt. When I was playing, that rule didn't exist. However, in my class, which is the winningest senior class of all time in Michigan State football history, we had 26 out of 27 of our players redshirted. So it was just a normal thing. And, included in that group is a lot of us that made it to the NFL, some first round picks, high draft picks, some that are still playing football now in the NFL. They redshirted. So it's not a bad thing at all. It's a way to get an extra year to go towards your graduation, but also to spend a year getting bigger, faster, stronger, getting your body right, your mind right to play at the level that it takes to play at the collegiate level.
Yeah, most definitely. You just had to drop that little tidbit that y'all know, like y'all kind of were the winningest team.
Yeah,
Just get.
but it's something that I'm proud of, but also looking forward to the class that breaks that. I tell every freshman class to come in, the number's 43. 43 games is the record that we hold right now, and it's within your grasp. So the freshmen that played this year won 11 games. It puts you on a good path, because obviously it's about 11 games a season. It's over 4 years that you have to win to break that record. Obviously that's a lot of games per season to win, but it's very possible to do. And for the freshmen for this year, they're off to a good start.
When you talk about redshirting, or is that like something that's pretty obviously, it has to be early in the season when the decision comes, but like, do most athletes know, like, hey, I'm going to be redshirted my first year, or is that like a conversation y'all have after like a little bit of training and workouts and practices?
Usually it's after a bit of training. Usually it's throughout training camp, and based on the depth chart and where people are positioned, that you kind of have an idea. Sometimes you go into the season thinking you're going to redshirt, and 4 or 5 games in, you're needed, based on injury, or maybe somebody in front of you isn't necessarily getting the job done. So you never really know for sure. You obviously want to come in with the mindset that you're going to play early. I wouldn't say you ever want to come in with the mindset that you're going to redshirt. You want to come in thinking you're going to compete for playing time. However, again, redshirting is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a negative, and you have to take it. You get out of it what you put into it. So if you do end up an opportunity where you have to redshirt, you got to make the most of the opportunity and practice on the scout team, doing what you can to get the team better, so that when it's your time, you're ready to roll.
You won the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, and y'all were one of the first, people in the CFP, which now I know some people are like, what? There was things before the CFP? Yes, y'all, things happened before the CFP. They used to like hold up that little crystal ball of a football. I wonder, is that thing kind of heavy? I feel like it has to be, right?
I would think so. There's a few in our football building from the 60s that we can't get to. They're locked behind pretty strong glass, but it looks heavy, at least from the outside looking in. I would think that BCS Crystal Ball Championship is pretty heavy.
Like when you go to Rose Bowl, like, when you're watching the games, you see all the footage of like the kids on the water skis and like all that kind of stuff. Like, what was some of the most fun activities you got to do when you were in the Rose Bowl and things like that?
Yeah, it was great. Just being in Los Angeles. We were downtown Los Angeles for a week. We stayed at JW Marriott right downtown in the middle of LA Live. I was 20 years old at the time, so I was, just a kid and trying to figure all this out. It was great. We went to, I believe, Universal Studios, which was obviously a hot commodity for us to go to. We saw the second 300 movie, I think 2 or 3 months before it came out. We got to meet Zack Snyder, the director. And obviously, when you're in LA, you're probably gonna see a few stars. So, also, I don't know if your generation remembers that Wiz Khalifa and Amber Rose used to be together.
Oh,
so
yeah, Black and Yellow. The Wiz
Yeah.
Khalifa like hair dude. I that is pushed into my memory as when I was in school.
One day, just casually, I got to meet. I took a picture with Tatiana M. Ali, who played Ashley Banks in Fresh Prince, because she was just hanging at the hotel with her friends. I mean, so you're kind of in that space of, you don't want to act like a fan and out of place, but you kind of are a fan. And so it was like, hey, can I, we're here for a game, and I'm trying to act like I'm a big deal, but I'm really not. You're the big deal. Let me get a picture. And you see all these fancy cars parked outside of the hotel. It was an awesome week. And of course, winning the game is icing on the cake. But all those bowl games are it's a fun week.
Yeah, and then it like y'all like those videos that the like social media teams are like, yeah, we went bowling this week and the kids hit the beach this week. Like, out of all the ones you got to experience, like what was some of the activities you think like your teams that you were on, y'all were like, oh yeah, y'all saw the itinerary and you were like, oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, definitely the amusement parks. That's always a big one. When we went to the Outback Bowl my freshman year, yeah, we did the jet ski rides because that's out down in Tampa. So we went to the beach, did the jet ski rides and all of that. That was a lot of fun. Even this year, going to the Peach Bowl, the guys got to do the Andretti racetrack and race around on the go-karts and go to College Football Hall of Fame, which was a great experience as well. It's always different, opportunities that are a lot of fun on these bowl trips. And that's why you want to make it to, a bowl game in general, just to get an opportunity to spend that time with the team, go to all these events, spend time with your family. They're always a lot of fun.
During your time, did you ever see when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're making us do this?
Not really, not really. I think they really do a good job of taking care of the teams and giving everybody fun opportunities, and honestly, even beyond, just ourselves having fun, the community service we get to do is always worthwhile and incredibly enjoyable. And it just, it makes you appreciate the opportunity that you have, whether it's going to a hospital visit or having kids come, to practice or things like that. Just really makes you appreciate what you have and the opportunity you have to give back. And so, no, there was never an event that I saw at a bowl game that was like, well, I don't really want to do this, because they give us enough free time. We have enough time to kind of explore the city ourselves. And you want to be able to go to those events and stuff like that.
And then I feel like that's kind of like the interesting part of college athletics is that like you're not quite at the top yet, but you are quite up there. Like there's hundreds of probably billions of kids who wish they could be, in the Rose Bowl, like playing in that game. Like, how is that experience of you like having people like know who you are and look up to you and like be like, oh, can I get a picture? Can you sign an autograph? Like, how is that?
It's humbling at the end of the day. It really is. And it kind of makes you sit back and think and reflect on the fact that, just kind of playing a kid's game at the end of the day can have this impact on so many people. And, I learned that through my time playing and try to always make time for people that just need to pick me up or just makes their day if you say a few words to them or sign an autograph or take a picture. And again, that's what I'm trying to instill in our players now is that, you have an obligation to give back. It's not an option, just because of the circumstance that you're in that you've earned, but also the fact that people do look up to you. You are a role model. You do have to set an example, and you can make somebody's day with the smallest of gestures.
You really can, like, because you see all those stories all the time and they're like, he looked in my direction, and like now that's like their screensaver, even though it's like some like fuzzy blurry picture and they're like miles and miles away. And now you are in the Big Ten, and personally, I live in the ACC area, but y'all play in like some very different kind of climates than we do over here. Do football players actually like playing in the snow, or is that like some like mythical thing that, they try to make it seem cool?
Playing in the snow is fun. Playing in the cold necessarily is not. So I think there's definitely a big difference in terms of, if it's a snow game like we had our last game of this year against Penn State, it just makes it a little bit more bearable than if it's just cold. But you get used to it, you kind of can brave the elements. And once you get into a game, you don't really feel it, in terms of the climate or whatever, but Big Ten country, Midwest, it is, we got snow. It's pretty cold today. We got snow out there now. And once October hits, you're probably not getting any warm games. It's just kind of how it goes.
That's crazy. Like, it's October here and you're still like shorts, tank top. You walk outside, you're sweating.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It's kind of what you got to give up. But Big Ten ball is awesome. I grew up in ACC country too, growing up in Maryland. And it's just something about playing in the Big Ten, and now we have Maryland and Rutgers and obviously Penn State and some of those East Coast teams in the Big Ten. But that's even, what you kind of grow up knowing is kind of Big Ten ball and Southern ball. And it's just something different about playing in the Big Ten. It's a great mix of obviously athletic success with academic achievement. You put it together, mixed with incredible fan bases. It's pretty special.
Would you say like that kind of play is what really, moved you to choose Michigan State?
Absolutely. The first thing on my mind was where can I go to get a great education? And then after that is where can I go play big time ball? Michigan State had two that I was looking for, mixed with, of course, a great fan base, incredible alumni base, and just the way the team camaraderie was, tradition, culture, and brotherhood of the team. So, recruiting changes day in and day out, but those were the big things for me, and I couldn't have made a better decision.
Yeah, like that. You got to go with your gut. And you talked about like the education purpose. And I saw you had like a journalism degree. And I feel like that's an interesting choice for like, not trying to like stereotype every athlete, but that's usually not a direction that they went into. What made you want to be a journalism major?
Yeah, I always, thought that I wanted to go the broadcast media route. And in my mind, I saw a lot of former athletes having success in the space, but I wanted to have the education also. I wanted to learn how to tell a story in multiple ways, not just getting in front of a camera, but being able to write, being able to do radio, being able to do TV. And, I knew that Michigan State had a great journalism school, has a lot of really good grads that have come from there. And really like what the program had to offer. So, definitely a proud grad of the J School. I've been able to do a lot in the broadcast space, been able to do work with Big Ten Network and local radio and TV and write for the Athletic and those types of things. And now I'm able to kind of use that training in this job for what we do on social media, for how we articulate certain pieces of information, for, doing voiceovers for certain videos, and branding our team and our student athletes. So it's all encompassed. It has served me really well, and it was definitely the right path for me.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't feel like a better kind of way to do the job that you do, especially dealing with such a younger generation, and how like journalism, how you present yourself on the internet nowadays is so important. And so for you to already have those skills and know how to help them, then they don't have to try to, trial by fire, as some people would probably have to do in that situation.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you can tell us about your job, as we alluded to a little bit more, like what is it, how it works, and what made you want to take this position?
Yeah, so it changes every day. The main crux of the position is running our player development platform, which is called the Overtime Program, and that allows us to fully and holistically develop the 360-degree student athlete. So athletically, academically, socially, spiritually, mentally, and then of course in their professional endeavors and what they want to pursue, which obviously starts with the NFL and then kind of goes from there. Get my hands on them, obviously through the recruiting process, but from the day they step foot, on in through our doors on campus with our onboarding program, through the time that they graduate and then join the ranks of our alumni. And I also do a lot of alumni engagement. I'm president of our Football Players Association, so kind of oversee all of our alumni engagement and keep our alumni together. And it's a role that's a dream come true for me. Something I've always wanted to do outside the broadcast space, just because I didn't think there was somebody we had on staff facilitating everything that we're able to do now in the player development space: financial literacy, education, application, entrepreneurship and business training, professional development, everything with name, image, and likeness. Now, there's just so many different avenues of college sports, and being a student athlete, you need somebody to navigate it and help push the student athletes in the right direction. I felt like that's where I belonged, and Coach Tucker was very gracious to agree that we needed somebody in that role, and I was able to earn that spot. So it changes every day, but it's a really fulfilling role, and I kind of love the freedom I have to kind of mold it how I'm able to.
Especially because it's in a role of like how to get them to where they want to go. And I know sometimes you probably have to be like, well, okay, that's a great idea, but how about, we look over here. So like, how do you, work with them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just establishing that relationship early on, with the fact that, hey, I've been there, done this before, and I don't want you to have to endure, the challenges that I went through. This is not about, well, I did it, so you have to do it too. This is about, well, maybe the way that they had me do it didn't work, so let's try it differently with you. And then just, again, making sure that they know that we have their best interest at heart. I'm in this role to serve the student athletes. And as long as they know that I'm not going to steer them in a direction that's not going to be beneficial to them. But also giving them the leeway to state their case, state their claim, and say, okay, this is why I want to do this the way I want to do it, or why I see this as something that's going to be beneficial to me. And then you just work with them. You find a middle ground and you let them go ahead and do what they're passionate about. You got to allow them to make mistakes also. It's the only way you grow. So there's nothing's going to be perfect, but you let them know you're not going to give up on them no matter what. And that mistakes are okay, and we'll work through those mistakes, and we'll come out the other side better.
And you talked about some of like the hardships you experienced in your career. Would you mind like telling us a little bit about like, you went kind of through that NFL process? Like, can you tell us about like how, that NFL Pro Day went, training camps, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, NFL is in professional sports in general is tough because it's a business, and everybody thinks they're good enough to make it, but everybody good enough doesn't make it for the amount of time they think they're going to make it. I was fortunate enough to get 3 years of professional ball in. Thought I, of course, just like everybody, I'd play in the NFL for 10 years and be able to write my own ticket after that, but it doesn't work that way. I got injured in training for Pro Day, which I'd never been injured before, and so that hindered me there. And that's the difference between getting drafted and not getting drafted, because that's your one shot, in terms of your audition in front of these scouts. Then, went to Cincinnati, performed really well, I thought, especially in preseason, and just didn't stick. Again, it happens as part of the business. Went up to the CFL, thought I was going to play 2 years up there and go back to NFL, get hurt 2 years in a row, and all of a sudden your career is done. And you're kind of sitting there at 25, and it's like, well, I thought I had, this lengthy professional football career ahead of me until 30, 31, 32. And now I'm done at 25 and got to hang it up. I better have a plan for what's next, which fortunately I had started formulating the couple years prior, and it ended up being a pretty seamless, smooth transition, but it was still difficult. It was still difficult to not be recognized as a football player anymore, and to have to be recognized as something else, because that is kind of your identity. And everybody has different things within that identity that they're going to miss. Some is the support, some is the structure. For me, it was a competition. So how do you find that in your next endeavor? And that's, again, what we try to teach these student athletes early on. It's not about talking about having a plan B. I think that's being a dream killer. So you'll never hear anybody from Michigan State say you got to have a plan B. I'll never say that. It's just about how I make sure everything you're doing on plan A sets you up for success in the totality of your life. And that includes making sure the NFL is at the forefront, but also everything you're doing leading up to that is going to allow you to transition very smoothly after your career is over.
How have you personally implemented those things that you missed about football or being a football player into your life currently?
Yeah, just daily life, personal goals. Personal goals with myself and health and fitness. Myself and how many books am I going to read in a year? Of course, being a part of a team still. Being in sports, you want to win. So there's still that competition aspect there. There's a player development, aspect of competing with just what we've done in the past. Can we be better than what we've done in the past? And that's big for me as well. So I'm always competing, in everything that I do for the betterment of the people around me and people in my life. And, it brings me, a sense of accomplishment. And for some people, they don't need that competition. They're looking for the structure that being an athlete provided, or they're looking for the support, or the identity factor. And there's other things that they can do outside of the game that can still provide that for them. And we look for those things to steer them in that direction, and kind of get them start thinking about it while they're at Michigan State.
Yeah, y'all have a great program sounding like. And do you think, obviously other schools probably have the same position, and you mentioned some things that y'all are really mindful about at Michigan State. What is, aside from those things, what is something that you think is very personable that you guys do at Michigan State that's not really offered anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, in terms of definitely the partnership we formed with our entrepreneurship program is something that I haven't seen at a lot of other places. We actually start the training camp up again next week. We go 5 or 6 weeks, 45-minute sessions, just learning on how to build yourself as an entrepreneur. And it's not necessarily always about you having to be one, but it's just about thinking in that manner. And especially again, thinking about, what does it take to yourself be a business? The age-old famous Jay-Z line, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. These student athletes are enterprises themselves. And so it's not about you going out necessarily and formulating a company unless you want to. You got to think of yourself as an enterprise. and build some of these entrepreneurial mindset traits that'll help you with everything you do. So I think that's big. And then just what I kind of touched on a little bit ago, just what it's called the Next Play Pro assessment. What are you going to struggle with the most when football is over? Is it the structure, the support, competition, the identity factor? We give them an assessment. Everybody grades out differently, and then we address that. We go over that. We say, okay, here's where you are, and just so you have an idea. It may change in a couple of years. We'll do it again, junior, senior year. But for right now, here's kind of where you're grading out at. Let's start thinking about some ways that we can combat that now, so that it's not as much of a shock when football does eventually end for you.
Oh, yeah. Because I feel like even when, you're not playing at such a high collegiate level, like when you don't make the high school team and, all your friends are making the team and you're like, oh man, like what do I do now? So for y'all to already be like, not preparing them for life after football, but just giving them like other options and seeing why, they like playing football other than, putting on the pads every Saturday is a really good idea. A little game we play at the end of every episode here is I say something and you tell us the first thing and a story possibly that comes to your mind. So your first word is football.
Second grade, I ran off the field crying. I said, I'm never playing the sport again. So I was 7 years old, and they made me do up downs. I said, this is not for me, and went the route of soccer from about second grade through sixth grade, and then picked it up again in sixth grade and kind of took off from there. So I guess it doesn't matter when you start, just, eventually it'll click for you. Yeah, football, I didn't, it wasn't for me at first, but it ended up being.
I don't blame you. Those up downs are critical. Those are probably why my knees don't work now.
Yeah.
The second one is No Way Home.
Well, I mean, Spider-Man, of course. What else would I think? I'm a Marvel head. I say that, it's like, my family and Michigan State and then Marvel is kind of the things I care about the most. So, I mean, what can I say? It was a phenomenal movie. I probably got it ranked. It was probably my second favorite right now, behind Infinity War, and
that's high.
Yeah, it was a great movie. It was a great movie.
Who's your favorite Spider-Man?
I think Tom Holland is. I grew up obviously on Toby, but Tom just does an excellent job. He just does.
Yeah. He embodies the character so much, like he's like the nerdy kid, but who can still kind of, be Spider-Man. Like Tobey Maguire was a little too nerdy, and Andrew Garfield was a little too like pretty boy, Yeah. And your last word and or phrase is chop life.
Chop life. That's where we live. That's where we live in Michigan State. Our mantra is keep chopping in everything we do. And that's just a great mantra for life. No matter what happens, just keep chopping, keep battling, keep fighting, find a way to get it done. And it's been a pleasure to work under Coach Tucker, to see how he operates, to see that he lives up to those mantras. And, I think, you can look at it as, we got relentless, we got keep chopping, we got chop life, we got deep water, we got all these mantras, but we really live by all of those. Like, it's not just lip service. We actually believe those things. And when you got a full team believing, anything's possible, like winning 11 games and winning New Year's Six Bowl after going 2-5 the year before, being picked to finish bottom 5 in the entire country. So it's great to watch the players embody that and believe in it. And again, when you get 120 players believing the same thing, you can do anything. So that's something that I'm gonna take well into my home life, with my daughter and fiance and with my family. My parents picked it up. My mom said, my brother, my dad, everybody.
That is so good. Well, thanks so much for being here with us, Darien. Let everyone know where they can find you, where they can find Michigan State, if they want to follow you on the internet.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. I'm easy to find on social media, Twitter and Instagram, DHarris_45. We do a lot with social media. We got an unbelievable social media team. Follow all the Michigan State channels as well, and Coach Tucker's channels as well, because we're always putting content on there, especially for this month coming up. Black History Month is coming up, and we're going to have a lot of really cool content on there because Michigan State's rooted deep in Black history, and we always want to tell that story.
Yes. Thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Absolutely.
Well, that is all I got for this week. Make sure to like, comment, rate, subscribe wherever you decide to listen to your podcast today. And head on over to Instagram and follow Her Sports Convo to stay up to things on all her. What? Okay. To stay up to date on all things Her Sports Convo. Thanks again, Darren, for coming on the podcast. Had such a lovely time talking to him. Y'all make sure to go follow him. All the things will be linked down in the description below. Follow him, check him out. Maybe see his baby. It's cute baby. Especially, you probably seen the photo of her laying in the confetti at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Pretty sure that's the one in Atlanta. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. As well as make sure to check out the main channel, Her Sports Convo, where I post new videos on the YouTube channel every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week's video was about NBA trades. So fitting for the foolishness that we are incurring this week, as well as check out the podcast channel if you would like to see me talk to myself on the weekly basis, or when I have guests up here, watch us have a conversation, see our lovely faces, see the laughs and the pauses that we naturally take that make a whole lot of sense if you watch them. Every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, those go live as well. But as always, be safe, have fun, and don't be afraid to join the convo.